So 2023 marks exactly 20 years of Novare's Mayibentsha moderate qualified fund of hedge funds operating as a qualified investor fund. It would be completely amiss to speak of Novare Investments as well as the Mayibentsha Moderate Fund without speaking to some of the clients. Today I'm joined by Sipho Sidu, Principal Officer at the Sala Pension Fund, to speak to us about their relationship with Novare Investments as well as the fund. Sipho, how long have your funds been invested with Novare?
It has been a long, very long, productive journey. It started in August 2011. We invested in three Mayibentsha funds: the neutral, the moderate, and the focus, obviously varying on the targets. The focus being the aggressive one at inflation plus 4.25, the neutral at inflation plus 2.5, and the moderate following suit. It's a journey that has been, I would like to believe, beneficial for both organizations.
I'm glad you mentioned that. How has your experience been like dealing with Novare and the fund managers at the fund?
We're a tough client. So we don't have, we've got no room for mediocrity. So I hope we have been able to keep Novare at their toes. But if you look at the returns over that period that we've achieved, it would appear that we're certainly on the right track in managing that relationship.
And what are you most satisfied about when investing your funds with the Mayibentsha fund?
It's the diversification for one. I think a lot has been said about hedge funds when they started and the regulations. But over the period now that we've invested over 10 years in them, we've seen fantastic risk-adjusted returns. So the volatility in the funds is quite tolerable for the return it gives you compared to many asset classes in the market.
Yes, and how has this actually changed your perception of hedge funds?
We have now been, we're now not talking the theory of being in hedge funds. We've been in them, we've invested in them, we've seen the performance. The initial perceptions when hedge funds came into the market that had to do with regulations and governance over the period have been sorted. We've had the last regulations issued for hedge funds. So, and we're fortunate that we've seen the performance in them. For us as a fund, during COVID, a huge part of our investment return came from the hedge funds. So they have carried us through dark days. We've got about 10% of our portfolio invested across in them. And we've seen returns of over R1 billion in rands coming from our hedge funds. We started with a mere 73 million. We're now at 1.2 billion of the size of that portfolio. And so the perceptions have been lived. So the fears, we've lived through them, and they have proven to be the opposite. It's similar to black asset managers in the industry. When they started mushrooming, there was that fear that, now that these guys are running their own firms, there's going to be a problem in them managing the money, which when they were working for the white firms, managing the money, there were no fears. But those guys lived, a majority of them, performing much better than the established investment companies. So I think that the advantage of having lived through it has changed our perceptions drastically about the safety of the asset class, and the fact that when we look across through our portfolio on a risk adjusted returns, they seem to be quite high up there.
Sipho, in your opinion, what can be done to better educate the retirement industry on hedge funds?
It would have a lot to do with the asset owners. It would have a lot to do with the board of trustees as asset owners, because when it is not understood there, those are the people that eventually interact further down with the member in terms of the structure. So if it is not understood there, it becomes extremely difficult for the industry to understand it. And when we say it must be understood by the asset owners, we do not mean that it must be when the asset manager is looking for business. There is a difference. There is a deliberate education process that needs to take place at independent forums, the Batsetas of this world, the IRFs of this world, so that we interact with the education from a non-selling position, where we are dealing with the asset class, you are dealing with everything, its pros and cons, and you have an understanding of it. I think when it is done there, when it is done, when the asset owners better understands it, it would be easy for the industry to warm up to the asset class.
Why would a hedge fund of funds like Mayibentsha continue to be part of your portfolio?
Well, like I said, it has carried us through dark days. It has been with us and has shown us fantastic returns during COVID. In COVID, I think in 2020, it was the best performing asset class in our portfolio. And as I indicated earlier, when you put up a strategy of the fund, it has a lot to do with diversification and making sure that your bets are placed accordingly in all the asset classes to the strategy of the fund. So from that point of view, and the way in which in real life the asset classes performed, I think it is here for quite a long time into the future, because it has become a DNA of the fund, and it has carried the fund in very stormy seasons.